In September 2001, 59-year-old Gary Schroen was preparing his retirement papers from the CIA after 32 years of service when he was contacted by the agency's most dangerous and secretive unit, the Special Activities Division, now called Special Activities Center. Right after 9/11, Schroen was asked to stay for one last mission, to lead Operation Jawbreaker, fly in before the troops, link up with Afghan allies, track al-Qaeda, and kick the door open for America's first response to 9/11. Before leaving, CIA officials explicitly told him to bring back bin Laden's head and avenge the United States. 9 days after the attacks, Schroen and his team landed in the Panjshir Valley in northern Afghanistan, carrying satellite phones, GPS units, and duffel bags stuffed with millions in cash to buy loyalty and intel. By early October, the Jawbreaker team was feeding real-time coordinates, designating Taliban bunkers and ammunition sites for precision airstrikes, and securing landing zones for the incoming special forces. Missions like these are the specialty of the most secret CIA branch, made up of ultra-select teams you never see in uniform. They handle the missions the US can't publicly own. The unit specializes in the dirty work no country wants associated with its name, like raids, sabotage, counterintelligence, hostage rescue, and the kidnapping of high-value targets. The government calls on the SAD unit when diplomacy hits a wall. The military can't show up in the open, and results are needed quickly. But how do you run a mission the world can't admit happened? Who pulls the strings? And how is it able to operate above the law with no consequences? This is the story of the US's winning card when all else fails. The terrifying unit nobody knows of. Think of the CIA's Special Activities Division, SAD, as the US government's third option button. Diplomacy is Plan A, open military force is Plan B. And when both are either too slow or too loud, the president can quietly tap Plan C, the SAD unit, which employs small teams that get in, get the job done, and leave no trace behind. Its roots go back to World War II, with America's original spy commandos, but the modern vibe really locked in after 9/11. The US needed people who could move fast in places where regular troops couldn't go, and where a public footprint would blow up alliances, negotiations, or entire regions. SAD's existence became better known during the start of Operation Freedom in 2001, when they started hunting for the al-Qaeda leaders. The SAD was presumably one of the first with boots on the ground, opening ways for the Special Forces units. The unit is divided into two branches. First, SOG, the Special Operations Group. This is the paramilitary arm that does the hands-on work like raids, sabotage, and snatch and grabs with no flags or badges. Second, we have PAG, the Political Action Group, which runs covert influence, including political operations, economic pressure operations, and cyber warfare. Supporting them are four branches: ground, which is often made up of ex-Delta, or Army Special Forces, maritime, air, and armor and special programs that run covert collection of armory equipment from clandestine sources abroad to have no connection to the US. Legally, this runs under Title 50 of the US Code, which deals with covert operations. These missions are not ordered lightly. They need a presidential finding, which is basically the signed green light, and the Congress Intelligence Committee must be kept fully and currently involved in the activity. But the who, when, where stays locked down. Translation: if something goes sideways, the government can truthfully say very little or nothing at all. Secrecy buys speed and flexibility, but it also means smaller teams, higher personal risk, and fewer backup options. So how does the unit prepare for these challenges? How does the machine work? SAD doesn't do open calls. They handpick their members from the top-tier units like Delta, Navy SEALs, Green Berets, and Marine Raiders. However, not everyone makes the cut to join the SAD. This unit needs the toughest of the bunch, both physically and especially mentally. It needs someone who would not mind going in near impossible situations with minimal support and no backup plan, and who has made his peace with being abandoned if captured or discovered. Basically, the best profile for the job would be the closest thing to a psychopath with nerves of steel and little to no emotional reactions. Once inside, the recruit is dropped into brutal training. First to the farm, which is thought to be Camp Perry in Virginia, then to The Point, a facility outside Hartford, North Carolina. The training is named the Clandestine Service Trainee, or CST program, and lasts 18 months. During these long months, The recruit wakes up before sunrise, and right away, it is time for weapons. He cycles through pistols and foreign rifles, stripping, cleaning, fixing, and firing until the process is imprinted in his muscle memory. In the afternoon, recruits shift to SEER work. This stands for survival, evasion, resistance, and escape, which are mandatory skills in life or death situations that these operatives will get into numerous times in their careers. Recruits are put in simulations of these situations. They look for food, purify water, and practice survival skills under a stopwatch and a medic's eye. Members of the SAD are clearly top-notch agents, but that is not the only reason they are called up. So why call SAD instead of the military's A-team? Because under Title 50, Ghost Mode is activated, and the US isn't officially there. Uniformed military runs under Title 10, which requires public accounting. That's great for wars, but not ideal for intelligence missions where stealth and secrecy are a must. SAD is also faster. They can slip in on Tuesday, do their mission on Wednesday, and be out by Thursday. Also, each operator is both spy and shooter. The same agent can recruit a fixer at lunch and raid a safe house by dinner, so you do not need two separate units. Finally, SAD is optimal for maintaining geopolitical stability. Some missions would blow up a region if done openly. Neighbors freak out, markets wobble, and negotiations tank. So a deniable SAD operation keeps the temperature low while still solving the problem. But how does this ghost mode actually play out on the ground? Iraq, 2003-2004, Operation Red Dawn. Before the 2003 invasion, SAD paramilitary teams slipped into northern Iraq and set the table for the US military, linking up with Army Special Forces, forming the Northern Iraq Liaison Element, and organizing the Kurdish Peshmerga forces. Together, they smashed Ansar al-Islam in Operation Viking Hammer, a brutal, on-foot mountain fight called one of the most intense since Vietnam. The fight was to clear a whole area that Ansar al-Islam completely controlled, and it happened before the main invasion in February 2003. If they hadn't won, a big enemy force would have been sitting behind the US and Kurdish troops when they later pushed south against the Iraqi army. Behind the lines, SAD and SOG targeted Saddam's command network. Early strikes crippled his control, and their persuasion operations helped units quit the fight. After that, it didn't take long for the whole regime to collapse. Baghdad fell, and Saddam Hussein disappeared. The unit's intelligence covert operations proved vital in locating him and asserting US victory. On December 13, 2003, near Tikrit, after months of quiet SAD groundwork, working clan ties, flipping cousins, and chasing phone signals, intel finally pointed to two farm sites near the village of Ad-Dor. CIA paramilitary officers joined efforts with a team from the Delta Unit to form Task Force 121. The two hideouts received codenames Wolverine 1 and Wolverine 2, and by night, the raids went down. The perimeter got locked, and buildings were cleared. Then a subtle detail caught the trained eyes of the agents: fresh dirt and a vent tube coming from the ground. Operators peeled back a camo cover and found Saddam Hussein in a spider hole, bearded and dusty, with a pistol in hand. But it was too late. He was hauled out alive, checked by medics, and flown to custody. A few hours later, "We got him" hits the airwaves. The reason it worked is the blend of spy intelligence and door-kicking muscle. SAD had the map and the sources, while Delta brought the precision raid. Syria, 2008, Abu Kamal raid. On October 26, 2008, a CIA Special Activities Division team working with Delta forces slipped into eastern Syria the quiet way. A small package of 4 helicopters skimming low toward a half-built compound in As-Sukhariya, just north of Abu Kamal by the Iraqi border. For months, SAD had been hoovering up clues on a foreign fighter pipeline run by Abu Ghadia, an al-Qaeda logistics boss tied to Zarqawi, known in US files as a prominent terrorist figure in the region. When the pattern finally popped, Washington gave the title 50 green light. Around 24 operators fast-roped/landed, hit the site hard and fast, killed armed men who posed a threat, grabbed 2 suspects, and lifted sensitive docks and communications gear before exiting, all in one afternoon. US officials said Ghadia was taken off the board. Some accounts even claimed his body was flown out, though Syria blasted the strike as a criminal breach of sovereignty and said 8 civilians died. Washington framed it as self-defense under UN Article 51 against a cross-border terror hub. This last point brings us to our final question. The SAD is undoubtedly efficient, but to what extent can we allow these operations, where nobody is held accountable? When things go south, who gets the blame, and how can justice be served against a ghost? SAD lives in the gray. Title 50 gives covert action legitimacy. A presidential finding flips the legal on switch, and Congress gets the hush brief before teams are sent to grab suspects, cross borders at night, or hit targets without uniforms. On paper, there's oversight, but because it's all classified, it is very difficult to know when limits are crossed, human rights are breached, and the sovereignty of countries compromised. That's where the big dilemma lives. How far do you bend human rights or international law to stop a threat right now? History shows how easily these missions can result in black site detentions, extreme torture methods, and hundreds of innocents dead or behind bars for years. While SAD delivers results, its lack of accountability came back to bite the US government more than once and left it in hot water in front of the national community. The myth is perfect shadow ninjas with zero mistakes, but in reality, skilled professionals under pressure make mistakes and leave a real-world mess after every raid with political drama, legal questions, and human costs, with nobody to pay the price. As we speak right now, another covert mission is probably ongoing. We may never hear about it, and we may one day be part of its collateral damage and the price paid for its success. Bottom line, covert power isn't a cheat code. It needs to be documented and used narrowly. The misses must be admitted, not dismissed. Otherwise, you save the country while burning its credibility and ethical code.
Subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.